Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Undergraduate Pilot Training Graduation Ceremony for Class 2315. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Kinnear, Commander of the 8th Flying Training Squadron, training students in the T-6 Texan II.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Eric Pounds, Commander, 71st Student Squadron.
Today's ceremony is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We encourage you to come forward and take pictures or videos when your loved one is presented an award or their wings. For your planning purposes, the wings are presented by rank and then by alphabetical order.
Please stand for the entrance of the official party and remain standing for the national anthems of Lebanon, Singapore, and the United States, followed by the invocation given by Chaplain Gilmore.
As I pray in my tradition, I would invite you to either pray in yours or simply observe a moment of silence. Let's pray. Dear God, I want to thank you for the great privilege it is to come to you now so that we can collectively celebrate the hard work and dedication of these graduates in Class 2315. Thank you, God, that they are joined by not only their fellow graduates, but family members and friends. I thank you also that to this point you have kept them safe on this journey, and I do pray that you would continue to watch over them from this point forward. I do pray that as they reflect on and celebrate this momentous day, that they might be able to truly appreciate what is very clearly an amazing step forward in their Air Force journey. I do ask that in your divine providence, you would empower these pilots to also be great leaders. Use them to lead in their upcoming classes and in their careers so that we are even better equipped to engage the threats that we face as a nation and as nations. Help them to be the kind of officers that lead by example in their professional and in their personal lives. In their personal lives, God, I ask that you would help them to strive for the ability to be the kind of person who's continually contributing to a healthy home. Help them to be truly present when they are with their loved ones. Help them to aim towards finding a healthy balance of being an excellent officer and either a father, mother, husband or wife, brother or sister. Thank you, God, for the great privilege of being able to come here and celebrate with them. Thank you, God, for those who are here and who you have made them to be. And I pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Gilmore. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Today, 23 officers will receive their wings. On behalf of Colonel Charles Throckmorton IV, Commander 71st Flying Training Wing, I would like to welcome the families and friends of Class 2315, as well as several members of Team Vance, including squadron commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, spouses, and our ASRC and Amentum contractors.
We are honored to have the following guests from our civil and wing leadership here to support the graduates: the Mayor, City of Enid, the Honorable David Mason, and his spouse, Melanie. The Vice Commander, 71st Flying Training Wing, Colonel Matthew Astroth. The Command Chief, 71st Flying Training Wing, Chief Master Sergeant Brandon Smith, his wife Jessica, and Airman of the Month, Airman First Class Christopher Ornelas. The Commander, 71st Operations Group, Colonel J.P. Pauls, and his spouse, Yana. The Senior Enlisted Leader, 71st Operations Group, Chief Master Sergeant Jason Aucoin, and his spouse, Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer Aucoin. The Commander, 71st Mission Support Group, Colonel Nikita Little. The Senior Enlisted Leader, 74th Mission Support Group, Chief Master Sergeant Zachary Pate. The Commander, 71st Medical Group, Colonel Rick Speakman. The Senior Enlisted Leader, 71st Medical Group, Chief Master Sergeant Leslie Finley.
We'd also like to give a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Brigadier General David N. Unruh, Oregon Air National Guard, and the Commander, 71st Flying Training Wing, Colonel Charles Throckmorton IV. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Throckmorton.
All right, good morning, everybody. How we doing today? For those of you who didn't notice, I'm learning how to use a water bottle over here, so I apologize if I've got a little water on me. But it is my absolute privilege and honor to have you here to welcome you to Vance Air Force Base and to Enid, America. Today's an incredible lives of these 23 new aviators sitting in the front row as we recognize their graduation from undergraduate pilot training in Class 2315. Mayor Mason, Melanie, thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do for our base and our town to make this a welcoming home for our folks, and we appreciate you having here today. To my fellow commanders and chiefs, our government civilians, and our contract teammates and all of Team Vance, welcome to today's ceremony. Obviously, this day would not be possible without the efforts of you and your airmen to get these folks to this front row. I'd also like to welcome our distinguished visitors in presence today. With us, we have several members of every military branch, active, guard, reserve, and retired. You and those that served before you have paved the way for us to be here today, and you deserve a special recognition. So please join me. To the spouses, significant others, moms, dads, grandparents, brothers, sisters, children, extended family, and any other category that I didn't recognize, but we're so glad you're here today. Thank you for being at today's ceremony. You provided our graduates the foundations, the principles, the moral compass, and the necessary work ethic to make it through this demanding program. Thank you for being here to share this great day, and thank you for all you've done to get them to this point. To provide a little background and context, Vance is one of 4 Air Force bases in the United States Air Force that produces undergraduate pilot training. We are, of course, the best of those 4, but I will leave that as my own personal opinion. Our mission is to prepare and deliver highly qualified aviators for follow-on training in a variety of aircraft in our Air Force and for those of our partner nations. In executing this mission, Vance has delivered more than 35,000 world-class pilots since 1941, including such notables as the 15th Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Richard Myers, the former Air Force Chief of Staff, General Ronald Fogelman, and the first female to command the Space Shuttle mission, Colonel Eileen Collins. And you'll hear me say it later, but there's also one other distinguished graduate from Vance sitting on the stage today. Class 2315, make no mistake, you're graduating on sacred ground. Air Force heroes have walked these halls and have learned how to be pilots with VN on the tail flash for decades. I know you will follow in their footsteps and make us Vance proud. In the seats next to you today, you have friends who you have made lifelong memories with. Academics, trips to the solo dunk tank, track select night, and soon your assignment night, to just name a few of those highlights. Although you'll be going in different directions from here, you will always have great memories of your pilot training experience. And I assure you, as you get a little older, the memories get better and the bad things you forget. So enjoy those memories and cherish them. So here we are. You're about to receive these wings. But I ask you to remember one thing. Wearing your wings is a privilege, not a right. It is a privilege given to us by those who went before us, and it will be soon a privilege that you will be able to grant to others. Make sure that you extend the same amount of pride and honor to those wings that have been bestowed upon you. Now today we're celebrating the folks in the front row, but it takes a total team on this base to get these students to today, and I'm very proud of the collective effort that contributed to Class 2315's graduation. We pour a ton of resources into these men and women, and in fact, we invest well over $1 million into each of them to turn them into the Air Force's next generation of pilots and leaders. However, it's not about the money that gets them to this point. It takes an effort of over 2,600 airmen, government civilians, and contract partners that make up Team Vance. Whether supporting, generating, or executing the flying mission, all have played an absolutely vital role in the graduation of Class 2315. Among that team, I would like to take the time to recognize 3 groups. I'd like to single them out for recognition. And although they are the least represented today, I want to start first with our instructor pilots. These men and women have molded our graduates into professional aviators, and they deserve a special thank you. You will notice that there aren't many of them in the building with us here today, and that's because they're already out about flying the line and creating the next class, getting them ready to earn their wings. They are creating the best pilots in the world, and I would appreciate it if you join me in a round of applause for them. The second team I'd like to recognize is our professionals who maintain our aircraft. Pilots break them, maintainers fix them. That's the way it's been since we started flying. We have an incredible team of government civilians and contractors who are every bit an airman as those wearing the uniform. We couldn't execute this mission without them, so thank you to our MAQ team and our Amentum team for making sure that our fleet of over 200 aircraft are ready to go every single day. And third and final, I want to thank our amazing men and women that make up the support and medical groups. Defenders, services, finance, MPF, dental, and flight medicine airmen, just to name a few. The wings you are about to receive, Class 2315, would not be possible without the efforts of those organizations. Please make sure you always remember that. Lastly, I'd like to share with you 2 questions that you're going to be asking the rest of your life. Where did you go to pilot training, and what class were you in? Those questions are ways that we as aviators establish credibility between each other. That's how I know who you went to class with, who trained you, who that you know that I can trust, and that I can trust you. I would ask that you remember that, and you are always proud of the fact that you graduated from Vance Air Force Base and you are Class 2315. That will carry with you for the rest of your life. All right, now it is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Brigadier General Neil Unruh. General Unruh is the Assistant Adjutant General for Air in the Oregon Air National Guard. As the Assistant Adjutant General, he is responsible for organizing, recruiting, instructing, and training Air National Guard airmen in 2 wings and a geographically separated unit. Prior to his current position, General Unruh commanded the 142nd Wing, providing tactical aviation forces and special tactics forces airmen in support of federal and state missions. Additionally, he has commanded at the group level in garrison and in the deployed theater. General Unruh entered the Air Force in 1997, receiving his commission from Officer Training School after graduating from Baylor University. Most notably, as I alluded to earlier, he earned his pilot wings right here at Vance in 1998 and served as a first assignment instructor pilot in the 25th, flying the mighty T-38. I didn't get a single shooter out of it when I said that. All right, we're going to let that go. We'll have to talk to 4K. General Unruh is a command pilot with more than 3,400 hours flying the F-15A, B, C, and D. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Brigadier General Neil Unruh.
Well, welcome and good morning. I can tell you about 25 years later, it's interesting to be on this side of the podium for pilot training graduation. And as the chief alluded to, it looks exactly the same down to the carpet. But thanks. Thanks, Colonel Throckmorton. Thanks to the leaders. Thanks for inviting me to come back to home. And I've always said I appreciated the Air Force putting a pilot training base in my hometown, which made going to UPT a little bit interesting. But it's good to be back where it all started from an aviation perspective for me. And I confess, I don't remember many details of our class graduation. I mean, I remember being in this room. I remember the folks that were here, but I couldn't tell you. I don't have the slightest idea what the speaker said. And that's fine. And so my objective today is over the next 70 or 80 minutes as I speak to you is to give you a few things that maybe you can, maybe a couple of things that are true that stick with you beyond your aviation experiences, beyond your MDS, beyond where you're at in the training command now, and you can take those truths and stick them in your helmet bag and carry them with you through your career. I'm not going to tell you anything that's new. And in fact, I'm going to reference the fact that we've always known these things in militaries that predated our nation. But they are true, and they are the marks of successful military officers and have become the characteristics of successful pilots, which is what I want for all of you to be. So the first thing I'd tell you is pay attention to the way things begin and the way things end. We do this naturally as human beings. We go to births and funerals and commencements like this one and graduations and anniversaries, and there's something intrinsically valuable about recognizing these milestones. If you think about it, nothing we're doing today gives you a better cross-check, makes you better at aircraft handling, increases your ability to land, flight discipline, tactical, or anything like that. This doesn't make you a better pilot, right? But this is important because we recognize we're celebrating those milestones. Today is one of those markers that like Colonel Throckmorton said, you've got to pay attention to because it's foundational. Today you get your wings. And today we're going to honor you for the accomplishments. And one of the marks of a virtuous warrior is someone who is thankful and expresses gratitude in the midst of being honored. And I thank God for the people that were with me on the day I got my wings. Many of them are not with us today. So return honor, like Colonel Throckmorton said, to your loved ones, to the folks that are here with you today, to the folks that maybe can't be here today that invested in your lives and brought you to where you're at. You will never regret expressing thanks to them for all they've done to support you. And I promise you, at the end of your day, you'll never say, gosh, I really thanked person X, Y, Z too much. You can't do it. Folks have poured into your lives. You know some of them right now. Some of them, as you get older, you'll realize later in life, in retrospect, oh, that person really mentored me. That person was there for me. So thank them. Be gracious. Practice virtue. You're already wearing wings. It doesn't get any better than that. All right. It's not new. It's an age-old exhortation. So the idea, in the 2nd century, Tertullian writes his Apologeticus, he says that when a Roman general would come back from conquering, accomplishing some great military feat, that they would process that general through the streets of Rome. And you can imagine all the processional things, like we do in a ticker tape parade, or we honor someone at the White House with a medal. They're going through and they're receiving all the acclamation, all the honor from the crowds. And what Tertullian writes is, in tradition, is that there would be someone behind them holding the victor's crown over their head. And in their ear they would whisper, look after yourself. Remember, you're just a man. Remember, you will die. Memento mori. So days, careers, flights, assignments, they don't last forever. Cherish them. Make the most of every day, particularly every day you get to put on a bag, strap on a jet, and go and do your nation's business. This career will go faster than you think. And remember, for all of you, the lieutenants sitting here today, it's going to be about a blink of an eye till you're retired, sitting there in your golf shirt, watching your kid, your nephew, your niece, or somebody get wings just like you, and you'll think, wow, that was about the week before last when I just got done at Vance. I'm an old guy now. I can tell you it's going to happen. Remember, cherish the time. It's going quickly, and it's not a new idea. Pay attention, be thankful. Remember, time is relentlessly marching on. It's also important to see how we do this, right? As you guys all sit here, we shook your hand outside as a class. You came in, you sat as a class. We organized you. The boss said, where'd you go? I was class, umpty frats from Base X, right? We organized, you are a class. You are not an individual. You've already joined the long blue line of the Air Force. Now you're joining the line of pilots. You're putting those wings on. You're part of a group. You do not fly alone. And this is an old idea. I spoke to someone earlier this morning that's studying English. And there's an old English poet, John Donne, that said about 400 years ago, he said, no man's an island entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent and a part of the main. I am involved in all mankind. Therefore sin not to know for whom the bell tolls, for it tolls for thee. The point that he was making then is that no one makes it through life on their own. Nobody's isolated. You're not an army of one, right? You're an Air Force class. You're part of a flight. You're part of a squadron. You'll be part of a unit. It might be small units as we do agile combat employment in the future, but you are part of each other. And not only are you part, but you're a leader. And we've known for millennia that effective combat forces are integrated. The Carthaginians didn't bottle up the Romans in the Second Punic War just because Hannibal was riding around on some elephant laying waste to everybody, right? They used combat arms and logistics. They pushed across the Alps at great personal consequence, and that unsupported, underfunded, small army with limited amount of resources kept the entire Roman legions on the continent for 100 years. Right, so today, when you hear about budget cuts and you hear about continuing resolutions and you hear about, boy, somebody's building more planes or more ships or more whatever, copy. Right, I'd like to have more planes. I'd like to have brand new ones. Well, we're getting brand new Eagles, so I'm pretty happy about that. But as an Eagle guy, but I want you to understand the lesson I want you to take from history past into the future as you guys write the next chapter is that you are part of the whole. You are part of that whole. You are not an island like John Donne wrote about. And every one of you is taking your place in that part when we are smaller than we've ever been before. What that means is each one of you, regardless of your aircraft assignment, carries a substantial part of the mission. We're smaller. I'm not a math major, right? But what I'm telling you is there's a smaller denominator and you're part of the numerator, right? You carry more of the mission. We need you on the line and you need each other. I've been a fighter pilot for 2.5 decades. And part of becoming a professional warrior is studying our military history. And one of the things, this following vignette doesn't tell the whole story of the Air Force, but maybe it illustrates some of the challenges these young pilots will face. And as you notice, I'm speaking to more of the folks in the audience, but this is true for you as well. So in 1991, I was a senior in high school. We had 134 fighter squadrons across all components of the Air Force. We executed Operation Desert Storm with about 55 fighter squadron equivalents. Some people quibble about that, but about 55 fighter squadron equivalents. Today, we have 54 fighter squadrons in the United States Air Force total. And even that's an inflated number because we have some aircraft dispersed still from the Tyndall hurricane. We're shutting down some squadrons in Kadena. The point is, even if that figure is somewhat inflated, we are a smaller Air Force than ever. And we can't rely on Cold War strategies or Cold War structures or org charts to produce success in the future. You will have to adapt. You will have to lead not only your aircraft, but you'll have to lead multi-capable airmen into battle from austere locations. You will have to use your intellect, you'll have to use your wits, and more often than not, you'll have to be guided by your internal moral compass than some AFI. And this doesn't mean I don't want you to follow the AFIs. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I don't want you to be a loose cannon. It means there will be a myriad of situations that you will encounter that we didn't anticipate. They didn't know where you're going to be when they wrote the AFI. So you will have to improvise to be victorious, but you can never allow the ends to justify the means. You must be virtuous warriors and virtuous leaders. Again, this is not a new concept. Henry de Bracton said in 1250, all rights arise out of justice. And as you fight for rights of the oppressed, you also must do what's right for the people that are under your command. Often as a young officer, you will be the one in charge of the small group, and you must do justly towards those who are under your command, as well as those innocent non-combatant third parties. The things we call austere locations, a lot of people call home. And you may be the only person. They may not know military history, they may not know how the government of the United States works or who's the president today or tomorrow, but they're going to see you wearing our uniform, carrying our flag. And so you are the ambassador, you are the commander, and you are the person to whom it falls, often as the leader, to do what is right. You're pilots. You're leaders of our service. And you're both of those things at a time of history when our service is small, when funding is tight, when China threatens peace in the Pacific, and when the largest land war in Europe since 1945 is hotly raging with absolutely no end in sight. In short, this is a great time to be a pilot. Because those are the kind of things that you've already experienced here at Vance. You didn't become a better aviator or a better officer on the days when it was easy. You became better on the days it was hard. That's not a new idea either. At the beginning of our country, there was problems with the budget. There weren't a lot of folks in the military. They had a couple of technologically outdated weapons. And they fought and persevered against the superpower of the world at the time. And our second president, John Adams, he was smart enough to marry Abigail. And here's what Abigail Adams said, and she's saying it to you today. She said, "These are the times in which a genius would wish to live. It is not in the still calm of life or in the repose of a Pacific station that great characters are formed. The habits of a vigorous mind are formed in contending with difficulties. Great necessities call out great virtues. We live in an age of great necessity. Your nation has called you out. You've completed the first step in your path to becoming an instrument of your nation's power. You will, in fact, be the hot fire and cold steel when diplomacy fails. You will have to dig deep, you will work hard, you will miss sleep, and you'll deliver combined arms air power all over the globe at distances and at speeds that most people can't even imagine, and you'll do it as a matter of course. You'll take the reins of leadership and you'll exercise more command at earlier stages of your career than your predecessors like me ever did. You'll have to make moral and ethical decisions to do the right thing without the benefit of a comprehensive guidance or senior leader oversight. You will exercise your virtues because doing what is right and just are ultimately the foundation of why your airmen will follow you. In the middle of the night, when it's freezing cold and without support, all in the name of getting the mission done. You have to remember what we're here for at our root. This is not a flying club. This is your United States Air Force. and we are here to defend freedom. Freedom and liberty are the only medicine for people suffering under oppression. We cannot inoculate the world against tyranny. We have to cut the cancer out. And this small Air Force that you joined today is a scalpel, and it provides the razor's edge just at the place and at the time where it's needed. It is very sharp. Your charge is to be able to handle it well. So remember, pay attention to the way things begin and the way things end. Days without wings are now ending. Days of great calling are ahead. Time is short. Live these days virtuously, lead justly, and do not ever forget you're the cutting edge of your United States Air Force. I'm honored to serve with you. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you, Brigadier General Unruh. Class 2315 would like to present, present you with a small token of their appreciation for being a part of this special occasion.
We will now recognize individuals who excelled in one or more phases of training. The new pilots competed for academic, leadership, and flying training awards, as well as the top wingman, distinguished graduate, and the coveted AATC Commander's Trophy. Each phase of training was carefully weighed, and only a slight margin separated the top performers. Colonel Speakman will now present the Academic Excellence Award to the pilot whose overall academic test averages exceeded those of their peers. The recipient of the academic award is First Lieutenant Josh Ong.
Colonel Little will now present the Leadership Award. The Leadership Award is presented to the officer who demonstrated outstanding leadership qualities and potential throughout this most rigorous and demanding military training program. The recipient of the Leadership Award is Second Lieutenant Jared Fisher.
Now Colonel Pauls will present the Flying Training Award. The Flying Training Award is presented to the pilot whose daily flying performance and check ride scores exceeded those of their peers. The recipient of the Flying Training Award is First Lieutenant Josh Ong.
Colonel Throckmorton will now present the Top Wingman Award, selected by their peers. The Top Wingman Award is presented to the graduate who epitomized the support and teamwork critical to being a great wingman. The recipient of the Top Wingman Award is Second Lieutenant Dane Winding.
I know these gentlemen said it before, but this is your ceremony, so please come forward or move wherever you need to take pictures.
Colonel Throckmorton will now present the Distinguished Graduate Awards. To be selected for this honor, a student must maintain an exceptionally high average in all phases of training and finish in the top 10% of their class. The first recipient of the Distinguished Graduate Award is First Lieutenant Josh Ong. The second recipient of the Distinguished Graduate Award is Second Lieutenant Kaylin Collars.
Finally, the most prestigious trophy that Air Education and Training Command presents to a pilot training graduate is the AETC Commander's Trophy. This pilot excelled in both flying and academics and demonstrated the initiative and leadership qualities essential to the professional Air Force officer. Additionally, they personify the tenets of the Order of the Dedalians, a group dedicated to military aviation, personal integrity, and patriotism. Brigadier General David Unruh will now present this special award, reserved for the officer who attained the highest overall rating throughout the program. The winner of the AETC Commander's Trophy is First Lieutenant Josh Ong.
At this time, Colonel Throckmorton would like to recognize the instructor pilots selected by Class 2315 who most embodied the Air Force core values during T6 training and provided exceptional mentorship and instruction. Colonel Throckmorton will present the recipients with a plaque in recognition of their hard work. Receiving the award from the 8th Flying Training Squadron is Captain Kirk Ferris. Also receiving an award from the 8th, First Lieutenant Grant Thiel. Accepting on his behalf will be First Lieutenant Andrew Tippin. This concludes the awards portion of today's ceremony. And now the time that you've all been waiting for. Colonel Throckmorton will formally present diplomas and pilot wings to our graduates. As they exit the stage, they will receive a commemorative coin with their unique graduation number from the 71st Student Squadron First Sergeant, Master Sergeant Kerry Wilson. The new pilots and families and friends are invited to pin on the Air Force wings after the graduation ceremony.
Having completed the required course of training, the following officers from Class 2315 are awarded the aeronautical rating of Air Force pilot. First Lieutenant Josh Ong.
Second Lieutenant Logan J. Beck. And folks, please feel free to come to the front if you want. We'll keep them up here as long as you want us to.
Oh, come back. Second Lieutenant Jared M. Fisher.
Second Lieutenant Natalie M. Fontenot.
Second Lieutenant Andreas J. Garcia.
Second Lieutenant Ryan M. Gentry.
Second Lieutenant Daniel P. Jadero.
Second Lieutenant Blake D. Hitchcock.
Second Lieutenant Jonathan P. B. Hughes. Sorry about that.
Second Lieutenant Kalen J. Collars.
Okay, congratulations. Second Lieutenant John D. Kropp. Okay, congratulations.
Second Lieutenant Jack T. Lewis.
Okay, congratulations. Second Lieutenant Cody E. Martin. Okay, congratulations.
Second Lieutenant Kyler W. Martin.
Okay, congrats. Second Lieutenant Maxwell B. McKinnon. Congrats.
Second Lieutenant Kayla G. Mills.
Hey, congratulations. Second Lieutenant William L. Phyllis.
Second Lieutenant Lillian Salmon.
Second Lieutenant Marshall A. Schultz.
Second Lieutenant Nathaniel I. Torres.
Second Lieutenant Brandon A. Van Norman. Congratulations.
Second Lieutenant Austin H. White.
Ready? Second Lieutenant Dane R. Winding. Congrats.
Now Colonel Throckmorton will present Class 2315.
Class 2315. Attention, hut.